Ever imagined getting a call from the police saying you're under arrest and it's all happening through your computer screen?
Whoa.
Yeah. It sounds like something out of a movie, right? But it's the reality of digital arrest scams and just one of the many cyber threats facing India right now.
Right.
We've got a ton of material on this, articles, government reports, even some test questions.
Well, okay.
So love to unpack it. The key threats, how India is tackling them, and how you can stay safe in this wild digital landscape.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, this whole topic, especially when you consider how fast India is going digital.
Right.
I mean, it's great. It connects millions, but it also makes us a big target for these cyber criminals.
So true. Before we dive into the specifics, can you give us a quick overview of how India is set up legally and institutionally to fight cybercrime?
Sure. The foundation is the Information Technology Act. It was passed back in 2000, but it's been updated a lot since then to include data protection and cybersecurity. And then in 2023, they introduced the Digital Personal Data Protection Act to protect personal information specifically. So these laws, they're kind of like the rule book for the digital world.
Makes sense. And who's enforcing these rules? I keep seeing names like CERT-In, NCIPC, Cybersecurity. What are these?
Oh, so those are like specialized units, each with a specific job.
Uh-huh.
Think of CERT-In, that's the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team as the first responders.
Okay.
They're like the 9/11 for cyber incidents, monitoring threats, issuing alerts, and helping organizations recover from attacks.
So they're like digital firefighters rushing in to contain the damage.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Then you got NCIIPC, that's the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center. Their focus is on protecting essential sectors, banking, energy, telecom,
Makes sense.
keeping them safe from cyber attacks. And then there's the Cybersecurity. They're the ones tackling the spread of malware and botnets,
Ah, okay.
those networks of infected computers used for large-scale attacks.
So like a multi-pronged approach to a really complex problem.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned those digital arrest scams earlier.
Right.
They sound terrifying. Can you walk us through how they actually work?
Okay, so picture this. You get a call or an email. It seems to be from a law enforcement officer.
Right.
They say you've broken some online law, like copyright infringement,
Okay.
and then they use all this fear and intimidation, demanding an immediate fine.
Hmm.
And they'll often threaten you with legal action or even arrest if you don't pay up.
I can see how people would fall for that,
Uh,
especially if they aren't familiar with the legal system.
Right.
It preys on their fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And to make things worse, they often demand payment in ways that can't be traced, like gift cards or cryptocurrency.
Oh, wow.
So if you pay, it's almost impossible to get your money back.
And we saw from the research that these scams, they led to losses of over 120 crore in 2024 alone.
Yeah.
That's a mind-boggling amount. What makes people so vulnerable to these scams? Is it just a lack of awareness?
It's definitely part of it, especially among people who are new to the online world, like senior citizens. But there's also a psychological aspect to it.
Okay.
You see, these scammers, they're masters of manipulation. They use fear and pressure tactics
Oh, yeah.
to create a sense of urgency that makes people act without thinking.
So it's like they hijack your rational thought process. You're panicked and you don't stop to question what's happened.
Exactly. And then there's the shame associated with falling victim. People don't want to admit they were tricked,
Right.
so they don't report it, they won't ask for help. And that allows the whole cycle to continue.
It's like a vicious cycle of silence that these criminals thrive on. Okay. So apart from these digital arrest scams, what other major cyber threats should we be aware of in India?
Well, ransomware attacks are a big one, and they're getting more and more common. Basically, cyber criminals hold an organization's data hostage by encrypting it, locking it up,
Okay.
and then they demand a ransom to unlock it. We saw this recently in August 2024 with that attack on CH Technologies. They handled tech solutions for banks,
Right.
and it ended up disrupting the payment systems of almost 300 small banks in India. It just shows how vulnerable our systems can be.
Wow. So it's not just about data theft anymore. It's about disrupting critical services.
Exactly.
That's a whole other level of threat. What about those deepfakes? I keep hearing about them.
Yeah, deepfakes are pretty scary stuff.
Yeah.
They're fake videos, but they're made using AI, and they can look incredibly real.
I've seen some. They're so convincing.
Right, and that's the danger. They can be used to spread misinformation, damage reputations, and even incite violence. Remember that incident in 2024 with actress Rashmika Mandanna?
Oh, yeah. That deepfake video caused quite a stir.
It did. It sparked a national conversation about the threat of deepfakes and the need for better ways to detect and prevent them. And as AI technology advances, deepfakes are getting harder and harder to spot.
It's almost like we're entering a world where seeing is no longer believing.
Yeah, you can't just assume something's real because it looks real.
So we've got ransomware attacks, crippling businesses, deep fakes blurring the lines between reality and fiction. What else is there?
Well, a lot of people don't realize the risks associated with all these smart devices, the Internet of Things.
Oh, right.
We've got smart TVs, smart security cameras, even smart refrigerators these days. And each one of these devices is a potential entry point for hackers.
Hold on. Are you telling me someone could hack my refrigerator? What would they even want with that?
Maybe not your refrigerator specifically, but all those devices, they collect data about your habits, your routines, even your location. And that data can be valuable to criminals.
Oh, wow.
The more connected devices we have, the bigger the target we become. In fact, there was a 59% increase in IoT-related attacks in India just last year.
So it's not just about our computers and phones anymore. It's our entire digital ecosystem that needs protection. It's a lot to take in. So given all these challenges, how is India fighting back? What strategies are being used?
Well, one interesting approach is using these large-scale simulations, like the national cybersecurity exercises.
Okay.
They bring together government agencies, critical infrastructure providers, cybersecurity professionals, and basically simulate a real-world cyber attack.
Oh, wow. So it's like war games for the digital world.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It helps them identify weaknesses in systems and procedures, and it improves coordination between different organizations.
Smart.
And then there's the Cybersecurity Bharat initiative. This one focuses on building up the skills and knowledge of cybersecurity professionals across government departments. They run workshops, training programs, awareness campaigns, all aimed at strengthening the country's cyber defenses.
Sounds like they're building a cyber army.
In a way, yeah. But it's not just the government's responsibility. The private sector and individuals play a crucial role, too.
It's a team effort. Are there areas where India faces specific challenges in its cybersecurity efforts?
Well, one of the big debates right now is about data localization. That's the idea that certain sensitive data should be stored within India's borders.
Okay.
Some argue that it enhances data security and sovereignty,
Right.
but others say it can stifle innovation and make things more expensive for businesses.
So it's a tough balancing act between security and economic growth.
Yeah, for sure. And then there are the challenges with actually implementing the laws and policies we already have. We have the framework, but putting it into action can be tricky.
I see.
And, of course, there's the shortage of skilled cybersecurity professionals. We need more experts, people who can design secure systems, respond to incidents, and stay ahead of these evolving threats. And you can't forget about the need to raise awareness among the general public.
Right, especially in rural areas and among senior citizens who might not be as tech savvy.
Exactly. We need to make sure everyone has access to basic cybersecurity knowledge.
It's a massive undertaking.
It is.
Cybersecurity in India, it's a complex landscape, always changing. But before we dig into what all this means for us as individuals, let's take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment to discuss practical steps you can take to protect yourself online.
We'll show you how to build your own digital fortress in this wild world of the internet. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into cybersecurity in India. We've talked about the threats, the strategies, the challenges, but now let's get personal. What can we do as individuals to stay safe in this crazy cyber world?
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by it all,
Yeah.
But the good news is there are simple things you can do to really reduce your risks. It's all about building good cyber hygiene habits,
Yeah.
Just like brushing your teeth or washing your hands.
Okay, so where do we start? What are the absolute basics?
Well, the most basic, and probably the most important, is creating strong passwords. I know, it's tempting to use the same easy password for everything.
Guilty as charged.
But think of it this way. It's like using the same key for your house, your car, your office.
That's a good point. What's considered a strong password these days anyway?
A strong password should be at least 12 characters long.
Okay.
And mix it up. Uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols. And don't use obvious stuff like dictionary words or your pet's name.
So no more password 123.
Exactly. Get creative, think outside the box, make it something you can remember but nobody else could guess. And for goodness sake, don't write it down on a sticky note and stick it to your computer.
Good advice. What about this multi-factor authentication thing?
Oh, that's huge.
Is that something we should all be using?
Definitely. It adds another layer of security. You have to prove it's really you through a second method, like
Okay.
you'll get a code sent to your phone,
Okay.
or you might use an app. It's becoming standard for most online services these days, banking, email, social media.
So even if someone gets your password, they still can't get into your account without that second factor. It's like a double lock on your door.
Exactly. Enable it everywhere you can. Yeah, it might seem like a little extra hassle, but it's worth it.
Right. What about those phishing scams? They seem to be getting sneakier all the time.
Oh, they are. Phishing scams are constantly evolving. They usually come in the form of an email or a text message that looks like it's from a legitimate organization.
Right.
Like your bank or a store you shop at.
Yeah.
But the goal is to trick you into giving up personal information, like passwords or credit card numbers.
So how can you tell if an email is legit or if it's a phishing attempt?
Look out for red flags. Misspellings, bad grammar, weird email addresses. Hover over links before you click on them to see where they really go.
Yeah.
And be wary of anything that tries to pressure you into acting immediately.
So if something seems too good to be true or makes you feel pressured, it's probably a scam.
9 times out of 10, yeah.
Yeah.
If you have any doubts, go directly to the organization's website or call them. Verify it's really them. And if you do spot a phishing attempt, report it. Let the authorities know so they can take action.
Good point. It's like we have to be digital detectives,
Kind of, yeah.
carefully examining every email for clues. What about our devices themselves? How can we keep those secure?
Keeping your software updated is essential. Those updates often include security patches,
Okay.
fix vulnerabilities that hackers could use to get in.
So it's like giving our devices regular checkups and vaccinations.
That's a great way to put it. And just like you wouldn't leave your front door unlocked, you need a strong firewall on your computer and any device connected to the internet.
Okay, that makes sense.
It acts as a barrier, blocking unauthorized access.
What about antivirus software? Is that still a thing?
Absolutely. A good antivirus program can detect and remove malware. Think of it like a security guard for your digital world.
An extra layer of protection.
Exactly. And of course, be careful what you download and where you download it from. Stick to official app stores and trusted websites. Don't click on suspicious links or open attachments from people you don't know. It's really all about common sense.
Right. Be cautious. Don't trust everything you see online. Think before you click. And double check before you share personal information.
That's it in a nutshell. Treat the digital world like you would the real world. Be aware, be cautious, be smart.
All right. That's a lot of great advice on prevention. But what if, despite our best efforts, we do get hit with a cyber attack? What should we do?
That's a great question and something we'll tackle when we come back. We'll go over the steps you can take to recover from a cyber attack.
Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll equip you with the knowledge and tools to navigate the aftermath of a cyber incident. Welcome back to our deep dive on cybersecurity in India. We've talked about the threats, the strategies, and building our own digital fortresses. But let's face it, no matter how careful we are, sometimes things slip through the cracks. So what happens if we actually fall victim to a cyber attack?
It's important to remember that no system is foolproof. Breaches can and do happen. The key is to act fast to minimize the damage and start the recovery process.
Okay, so let's say the worst has happened. What's the first thing we should do?
The most immediate step: isolate the infected device or devices. Disconnect them from the internet, from any network, really. You don't want the attack to spread. Think of it like containing a virus.
Okay. Putting those infected devices in digital quarantine.
Exactly. Next, you need to assess the damage. What information's been compromised, what systems are affected. This will determine the best way to recover.
So it's like a digital damage assessment, figuring out how bad the situation is.
Precisely. Now, this is where it can get a bit technical, depending on the type of attack. You might need to run a scan with your antivirus software, check your bank accounts for any suspicious activity, change passwords for any compromised accounts.
What about things like ransomware attacks where your data gets encrypted? Is it ever a good idea to just pay the ransom?
Law enforcement usually advises against it.
Okay.
Paying the ransom encourages these criminals, and there's no guarantee you'll actually get your data back.
Oh.
But there might be cases, especially for businesses with mission-critical data, where paying the ransom seems like the only option.
It's a tough call, like a digital hostage situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we've isolated the devices, we've assessed the damage, we've taken steps to recover our data. What then?
Reporting the incident to the authorities is crucial.
Okay.
In India, you can report cybercrimes to your local cybercrime cell or through the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal. Providing details about the attack helps law enforcement track down the bad guys and prevent future attacks.
So even if you feel embarrassed or think it's too late, reporting is still important.
Absolutely. Every report helps. And don't forget to document everything. Keep records of the attack, the steps you took to recover, any communications with the authorities. This can be really important later on for insurance claims or legal proceedings.
It's like a cyber case file.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once you've dealt with the immediate aftermath, it's important to learn from the experience. How did the attack happen? Was it a phishing email? A weak password? Outdated software? Figuring out how they got in will help you strengthen your defenses for the future.
Turn a negative into a positive, a learning opportunity.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from all of this. Cybersecurity isn't a one-time thing. It's a continuous process.
Right. It's a journey. The cyber threat landscape is always changing, so we need to stay informed, stay alert, and adapt along with it. And that's really where resources like this deep dive come in. We hope we've given you the knowledge and tools to navigate this complex world of cybersecurity. But remember, this is just the start. Keep learning, keep exploring, keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. Talk to your friends and family about it. Share this information. Let's create a culture of cybersecurity awareness.
Because in the digital age, knowledge is power, and cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. So stay safe out there in the digital world, and thanks for joining us for this deep dive.